Welcome to The Shield Within. The issues discussed on the Shield Within podcast do not reflect the opinions of any specific agency. They are the views of the host and the guest. Any persons discussed may be fictional for comedic purposes only. This podcast is rated explicit and listener discretion is advised. Listening to The Shield Within may trigger repressed or suppressed memories or experiences. Please contact a mental health professional at your earliest convenience. It's time for the chaos to cease.
Time to open yourself to peace.
From the hours you've put in.
To the next shift you begin.
From the endless pursuit of release.
That finds the worst unleashed.
Transform the ugly into a win.
Get to know your shield within.
Welcome to The Shield Within.
All right. Good evening, Mark.
We are immensely excited this evening because we have the one, the only, Mr. Jake Clark. And we have the one and only Eric Krites. Do we talk about where you worked at?
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, you were a assistant chief, deputy chief.
I was assistant chief of operations.
There, at the Troy Fire Department?
Troy Fire Department.
Fantastic.
30 years with Troy.
Wow. Long time.
What a great career. And then we have Mr. Hat.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So let's do a little bit of business, and then Dr. David's going to take control.
Sounds good.
So if you're on Facebook, and we hope you are, all those old folks are, we're at Facebook / Shield Within. We have our own website, which is theshieldwithin.com. And if you're in need, you can reach out and work with Dr. David yourself and hit that coaching button or go to lessonslearnedcoaching.com. We're also on Instagram. Come by and see us, like us. We need more likes. For God's sakes, just like us.
We just want to be liked. We just want to be liked.
That's exactly right. But thanks for listening in. All right, Dr. David, it's all yours.
All righty. Good evening. It is such a pleasure to see you both here. Eric, I had a chance to meet you a year plus ago when Joe Terry came to town. And
yes.
We were both there to hear her presentation. And Jake, I got to meet you on the phone a few weeks ago when you and Eric and I talked about getting together this evening for the recording. And I've spent a little time. I didn't do a whole lot of research on you, Eric, but it was a lot easier to do a lot of research on you, Jake. And man, your YouTube videos are excellent. I recommend everybody just YouTube search Jake Clark, Save a Warrior, and you're going to see a series of videos, interviews, one really nice professionally done YouTube video of you talking about Save a Warrior, how it started, some of your background. Excellent. And so for those of you who are listening to this evening, Jake is a former Army veteran, former member of the LAPD, former member of the Secret Service, and a former FBI special agent, all in one lifetime. Damn.
Wow.
Dude.
I was impressed. I'm super impressed right now.
That's quite a life. And we could spend, and I'm sure, days on just those four things right there. But I want to start with your program because I love your program. And I'm so curious about this. 2012 is when this began, correct?
Yes, sir.
And in my mind, I'm thinking there was a moment when you were sitting somewhere thinking about God knows what, no matter who knows what was going through you, and you thought, I need to do this. This needs to happen, and I'm going to start it. So could you tell us about that moment where just the genesis of Save a Warrior?
First of all, thank you for having me, here with you this evening. It's a real honor and a blessing to do this because I'm fairly convinced at this point that there will be somebody that tunes in at some point and listens to this broadcast and they'll end up at a seat in Save a Warrior. Mm-hmm. They'll end up in a seat at Save a Warrior. Mm-hmm. That happens out of these kinds of conversations. The genesis of the Save a Warrior conversation began with my own mental illness. It is an artifact of probably some kind of a narcissistic personality, borderline addict illness to somehow scratch meaning out of a life that was devoid of meaning. It was a mistake. I made a mistake that ended up becoming a miracle. Yeah.
Short-term pain, long-term gain.
Well, I was always chasing something, running from something, and I didn't know what I didn't know, but I had been very curious from a very early age about people and this growing capacity to understand that people were not straight with each other. I grew up in a classic American dysfunctional home that comes replete with the cover-up of the cover-up of the cover-up of the cover-up. And I was aware of this at an early age when I started going to mental institutions to visit a mother who was a clinically diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic who was married to my father, who was a Vietnam-era Marine, blackout drinking, compulsive gambling, domestic violator. And, I won't make anyone wait. What I ultimately found out, like the ultimate moment of clarity for me, was probably a few years ago, about 10 years into Save a Warrior, taking somebody through the follow-on aftercare that we suggest, when it struck me out of nowhere that my father and I were both molested by the same person, his mother. That was the moment. That was the moment. And it answered everything in arrears for me about exactly why Save a Warrior, if you can call it success, has had the success, because it's stripped back all of the pretense that warriors that struggle to keep covered up in their lives, that lead to addiction, that lead to troubled relationships, that lead to ruined careers and conversations that are had that aren't meant to be had, that can't be had. And, all the last bit of pretense was just stripped away in that moment. And what I was left with was this profound sense of forgiving myself for making my dad wrong for being human. It completed our relationship right there at the kitchen table.
Wow.
And it blew my mind. And I knew exactly why everything had happened, that had happened up and until that point. I'm 57 and a half now. I was probably 55 years old. I was in the wake of a devastating divorce for me, and on and on and on, and we can get into that. You ask me the time, I'll tell you how to build a watch. But that was the moment where I finally decided, or I finally, understood that I didn't have to pretend I wasn't pretending anymore, that I didn't have to run cover for people that had been involved in certain experiences in my life. But it also gave me a clarity around why my family dynamic was the way my family dynamic was. And you hear a lot of cliche and memes in the world, and the one of hurt people. No, we are in the people that serve this culture. We are a collection of process and chemical addicts that take turns running cover for each other. And if you don't call me out on this, I won't call you out on that. So we take turns running cover for each other, and we're sworn to protect the public at large, and we can't even fix our own shit.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's a big lie. I got clear about the big lie in my life, and that is that me and my father could not talk straight to each other about what was going on with his mother in both of our lives.
Yeah. Did you and him finally had that conversation?
It's interesting. He had been passed for about 5 years, and I had a chance at his bedside. He got sick very suddenly and passed 2 weeks later at 74. My mother passed at 52. But I was able to at least be at his bedside and watch him pass quickly, as comfortable as they could make him. Listen, when they tell you you're going to hospice, what they're really saying to you is we are in the 2-minute warning. We're not going to stop the clock. There's no timeouts, and we're going to jam your loved one full of opioids until we shut down their respiratory system. So make sure your affairs are in order.
Wow.
Make sure your affairs are in order, because when they say hospice, that is the show is coming to an end.
Yeah.
I'm very clear about that. That's why my affairs are in order at 57 and a half. And if I die here during this podcast, Saul's going to get a fuck ton of money from the insurance company. Key man, don't worry about Save Warrior. What they're going to fight over is what to do with the money, but they're going to have plenty of money. But what I came to understand was, and if I had said something to my father while he was alive, he would have murdered me. That would have been a homicidal affront to him. Whoa. That's how deep in this culture, what we've discovered in the community of practice of Save a Warrior, which numbers 2,200 people, 85% of all the people who have come to Save a Warrior were sexually abused as children. Show me a veteran, show me a police officer, show me a firefighter who is suicidal, and I will show you 3 things: a high adverse childhood experience survey score, non-shareable problems, unintegrated survival traits, and all of that will be wrapped in a context of addiction, whether chemical addiction or process addiction. And I know that's a term of art a lot of people may be unfamiliar with, but I see a high degree of process addicts along with chemical addicts that goes to the non-shareable problem, typically a very, very dysfunctional upbringing, but not just so much that, the story that I'm stuck on about my upbringing. I'm addicted to retelling the story to myself or others. And that's how I stay stuck in that vicious circle. That's what I discovered after a lifelong of looking. I'm looking right at it, but I couldn't see it. I'm looking right at it, but I couldn't see it. There's a great scene in the movie Air about the Air Jordans that came out, where Matt Damon is trying to show Jason Bateman this scene. He goes, you're looking at it, but you don't see it. And a lot of us go through life like that, where we believe we're in reality when we're actually in non-reality and stuck in a vicious circle. And the more we try to extract ourselves from this vicious circle, the deeper we pull ourselves in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it just gets more and more hopeless. It feels so bad. It just feels bad. This comes to your mind. I need to do this, Save a Warrior. I need to create this. Who's the first person you wanted to tell?
God, what a great question. My dad.
Your dad?
Yeah.
What'd you want to say?
I got a great idea. Dad, I'm going to save the world. Dad, don't you know who I think I am? Dad, if I just pull out one more rabbit from this fucking hat of life, will you love me then? Will you validate me then? Will you approve of me then? Will I have people please you then? God. He was my go-to. And as a person with a high degree of narcissistic traits on the Echo supply chain, like, he was the person I needed to call no matter where I was. And when you ripped off those jobs that I was very blessed to have, military, Uniform Division, Secret Service, LAPD, FBI, I did all that by the time I was 29. And I'll never forget the loneliest day of my life was February 6th, 1997, walking across the stage at Quantico, shaking hands with director Louis Free, sitting down in my seat next to a wonderful young man at the time, Michael Costanzi, weeping. He was weeping at his accomplishment, and I was numb. And I knew at that time, I was 30 at that time, through getting through the training and what have you. I knew, sitting there on February 6th, 1997, with everything behind me since the age of 17, sitting there, I knew I was in a lot of trouble. I knew that you are strapped to a bomb, and it would take about another year for that bomb to go off. And in one day, I flew the plane of my career into the side of a building, and that was really the end of the beginning of the old life that had been me prior to that moment. So that's kind of where I threw myself into recovery headlong, was the first week of November of 1997. And the scariest thing I ever did as an active FBI agent was walk into a Sex Addicts Anonymous meeting, because I didn't know it at the time, but I was setting out on a course to Goldilocks. What is wrong with me? This one's too hard. This one's too soft. This one's just right. And it was a series of of events that would unfold over the next 20 years of my life, up and until early 18, where I finally figured out, and I had been told many times, sir, I had been told many times, not many times, but there were crucial encounters with people on that path that would say to me euphemistically and kind of tip their hand. And that's what spiritual guides do. It's always paradoxical. It's never, they may point at the moon, but I'm looking at their finger, and they're kind of in a nice, compassionate way going, no, idiot, raise your visual horizon. the moon, I'm pointing you at the moon. And they would use terms of art that I didn't understand, but I came to ultimately understand, what we call the thing under the thing. But I saw the same happening to people with whom I had served. I would look back into situations at the police departments, in the military, at the federal agencies, and I'm like, we're just a collective of really fucked up people who are really good at looking good. We're really, really good at looking good. And somebody, I'm a huge fan of Kurt Vonnegut, and I read one of his stories where he said, the reason they dress us up so nicely in the military and in law enforcement and fire services, emergency services, is so that rich people can fucking stomach to look at us. and, the truth has a certain ring to it, because I'm in the begging business, and it's not rich people who give me money. Right. It's poor people. It's middle class people who give me money. Like rich people, they wouldn't piss on me to put me out if I was on fire. And I find a lot of humor in this journey to healing, but I'm deadly serious about another person's path, and we really try to cut off a lot of that suffering that is yet to come, because as bad as it is, this is one of my favorite euphemisms, it's going to get worse before it gets worse. It's going to get worse before it gets worse. It's bad. It is a catastrophe. You have fucked your life up royally. You are fucked with a side of fucked, refucked, par fucked, with a 6-pack of fucked. Here's an extra helping of fucked. But that's the road to healing. And it's bad. And a lot of people are not going to make it. Because they don't have the courage to tell the story of who they are with their whole heart. That's the only thing that I have left in this journey, is I can absolutely sit here and tell you every fucking degrading thing I've ever done as a human being and look you right in the eye when I do it, because I trust the process at this point. I've tried it every other way, except the higher power's way. And when I finally accepted that, the life that I really was seeking, this purpose-filled, others-directed life, it just appeared.
Yes, it developed all by itself.
100%.
Yeah. So you have this, you want to talk to your dad.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
What was then what was like the first thing you do to make this happen, to make this real? Take it from inside your head. You shared it with your dad. Okay, how do you make this real? What's the first thing you did?
Called a spiritual advisor, known as a sponsor in a 12-step program. And I said to him, he had a son who would end up being in our program. Sadly, his son lost a leg in Afghanistan, so he was very empathetic to what was going on with the significant, swift declining of the mental health of returning veterans. And at the time, this was a program, this was going to be specifically designed for returning veterans, primarily of the Iraq and Afghanistan conflicts, because we were hearing, as a reservist, I went back in after 15 and a half years. I got commissioned. I trained a lot of guys going to Iraq and Afghanistan. I did a couple tours in Serbia in the fallout of Kosovo, and I stepped into a different military. You never step in the same river twice. I stepped into an entirely different military, and I thought, my God, this is fucked up. Like, this is really fucked up. What is this thing called the U.S. military? And these are just interior conversations I'm having with myself. And again, I'm still mentally ill. I just don't know that I don't realize how mentally ill I am at the time.
Okay.
And I thought, how does a person do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 deployments and then come home and kill themselves? I'm from Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. I grew up a 2-iron from the Amish. I'm as common as dirt, fairly well read. I would say rather educated. I'm a year away from being a doctor. But, with all of the technology available today, let's just say I'm a huge fan of ChatGPT. I'm going to leave it at that. And but I'm a person who was a voracious reader as a younger man, because I wanted to understand, why was my mom so sick? Why was my dad so sick? Why am I so bothered by the things I'm bothered by? 99.9% of which are none of my business. The reason Save a Warrior exists is because I just can't mind my own fucking business. Because I can't mind my own business. Now, in the recovery space, they would call those Al-Anon issues. Why do I worry about my dad's drinking? Why am I worried about my girlfriend's drinking? Why am I worried about my wife's drinking? Why am I so goddamn judgmental? Like, what is going on for me internally?
Yeah.
But, I talked to some spiritual advisors, and, their best suggestion was, just do it for fun and for free and see what might come of it. Because I had been through the Sterling Men's Weekend. I had been through the curriculum for living at Landmark Education. I'd been through, you can't live in Southern California for 26 years and swing a dead cat and not hit somebody who's into some esoteric conversation.
Right.
And I kind of approached it like Herodotus. I would walk into these foreign conversations just out of curiosity. And along the way, I met the M. Scott Pecks and the Marianne Williamsons and the Tony Robbins when he was still Anthony Robbins, and the Kornfelds and the Caulfields and the Melody Beatties. And all of these people would host seminars in Santa Monica and places like that to test out their new material.
Right.
And because I was someone who at 19 stopped drinking, I didn't have a lot to do on the weekends like other people.
Yeah.
They're out partying. I was reading. I was going to conferences. I was going to conversations. I was sitting in on salons. And I just happened to begin to notice that I was noticing things. But however this sounds is however it's going to sound. Yeah. I always wanted my own conversation. Like, I wanted to be that guy that was in the front of the room that was communicating transformation.
Ah, gotcha.
And I knew that Werner Erhard was world class at that. Anthony Robbins, Justin Sterling, and I was watching these masters of their craft, and I was trying to figure out what's the formula here. Because listen, I'm on your podcast and a bit muted, and I know people are like, that dude sounds crazy. I know he's not medicated or he's off his meds. But when I deliver the conversation that is Saul, you can talk to the people like I'm out of a fucking bag, because I'm talking to a dead person. We just haven't pulled the trigger. We haven't taken the pills. We haven't tied up the noose. We haven't followed through on the plan. Half of the people that have sat in the seats have already attempted to take their lives. We know what their ACEs scores are. We know what the biomarkers say. So it is a deadly serious conversation, but I don't take myself serious, but I take the conversation very, very seriously. And I knew that about the people I was studying in Southern California. I'm like, these are masters of the craft, whatever it is. And if you cut the ends off, they're all saying the same thing. They're saying this, and they're saying this.
Very good.
And if one can find a way to language that euphemistically into a community that I had entree to, like no one's ever going to say, you don't understand. I'm like, you're right, I fucking overstand. You're right, I don't understand. Like, I have stood in those boots. I have been on that post. I have been to the show. I have worked Skid Row in South Central in the summer of DC when there was 500 homicides, and have rolled on those crime scenes but more than that, I have worked with you. It's not the bad guy on the street. We fucking eat each other. We cannibalize each other.
Yes.
Because we don't know how to connect with each other.
Yes. Right. Yes, exactly.
We don't know how to have a genuine, true connection with each other, because it's the old foo jig 'em, fuck you, Jack, I got mine. And that's what I was seeing. And, how does one begin? What Saul is what's known, it's an evidence-based practice. It is a pre-seed, proceed model. We got to come all the way back to the original crime scene, get complete with that, mourn and grieve those losses, and then move in the direction of travel where one lives the possibility of a transformed life, where service to others is a primacy. It wasn't even a consideration to drive 90 minutes one way today, go back and get stuff done. When you're asked to be of service, if you walk this path, the only answer is yes.
Yes.
And if it's 3 a.m, if it's 3 p.m, and listen, here's the insight. You don't have to like it.
No.
You don't have to want to do it.
No.
So it's an interesting world that I was blessed to find access to, and the aperture began to widen and widen and widen. And I'm very fond of this thing we have called the tunnel of tears when you line up for the Saw experience. And the caveats are twofold. Threefold. Number one, I know why you're here.
Yep.
Number two, this isn't what you think it is. And finally, number 3 for the win. This is not going to go the way you want. It's not going to go your way. So with that being said, before we come across these stones, like in Field of Dreams, there's the exit. But I'm not going to debate with you in a mental institution when your best thinking has you wanting to kill yourself. So there is a rostering process. All of these things were thought through before. Saul is iterative, and it's created in design thinking. What is, what if, what wows, what works. It is information intensive. It is user driven. It is an incredible experience. It is a $1 million program shoved up your ass a nickel at a time, but it will absolutely transform the way you look at the world going forward every day for the rest of your life. Even if it's just for a moment, there's something about that conversation that initiates, that causes an impact, that gives a person the power to affect miraculous outcomes in their life. But you gotta be done suffering. You've got to be. If you're not done suffering, we can't help you.
Gotcha. You reached out spiritually first. I love that. We spend a lot of time on our show talking about spiritual resources, the importance of it. We talk about the 4 F's: faith, family, friends, and favorite activities. Faith is always first. It's not necessarily like faith in God or faith in the Methodist Church or the Catholic. No, it's faith. It's faith in self, faith in outcome, faith in process, faith in learning, faith in opportunity. That's what service is to me. You reach out, you get yourself a spiritual advisor, and then I'm thinking, you want to get some people involved in the program, right? So like, how did that first group of cohorts, how did that happen?
By accident. I made the biggest mistake ever and invited people who knew me and who could not listen for me in a way that I felt I needed to be listened for this to be effective. So half the folks were anonymous, the other half were the 5 guys I knew, and they were the biggest pain in the ass ever. A prophet is welcome everywhere but his own fucking hometown. And I learned that one the hard way. And we break that down in the conversation that the biggest challenge for you in your healing journey is the way people in your life have you and listen for you, because we've trained them to listen for us a certain way. But everything kind of fell together when a guy challenged me beforehand. He said, do you have the venue? Do you have the idea? I have the idea. You have the script? I have the script. Do you have the venue? Do you have the providers? Because I was employing world-class psycho-spiritualists who would provide services to high thread count recovery centers in Malibu, California. And they were just wonderful, wonderful folks that had, gone the social work route and were more into the experiential route at this point, had their own philosophies, and that kind of fused and synthesized, and we produced the first cohort, and it was spectacular. I had one asshole in the seat, and everybody else at some point started rowing in the same direction, because something happened. When you are looking to initiate someone into their own spirituality, you need submission, containment, and enactment. They have to be enrolled in the possibility of possibility. That's a first and foremost. And they have to submit to that containment that for the next 120 hours, we're all going to agree to disagree agreeably. And then finally, the things that we had put in front of them to evoke that mystical quantum moment, that spiritual experience of the educational variety, that dramatic educational awakening, all of that alchemy just kind of showed up there and blew my mind. Thankfully, I had a cameraman embedded, so I had proof of concept. And from there, that was 214 cohorts ago. That was 2,200 people ago.
Wow.
That was a phenomenal experience. Pawned a wristwatch to do it.
Yes.
It was catch as catch can, but it was done in the most stunning set and setting overlooking the Pacific, where this Jewish summer camp said, look, this sounds like a great idea. We're compassionate to the issue you're speaking of. We'll bone the price down on this just to make it work for you. And caught lightning in a bottle, so to speak, because I can sit here and I can express to you again and again and again what this experience is. But if you talk to somebody who's been the Save a Warrior, who's gone out and put into practice in a rigorous way what was there as an invitation following the experience, they'll tell you You can't explain what happens in those 72 hours. Like, I can try to tell you, but I will tell you this: it is a brutal, grueling, gut-wrenching experience, but with a beautiful impact that no one sees coming.
Right.
And I don't want to ruin the surprise for anyone, but I will tell you this: it will fuck you up.
Yes.
This is not the VA. This is not the Employee Assistance Program. This is not some high thread count spot out west. This is not Betty Ford. It's not Pasadena. Dr. Drew ain't going to come in and hand out, Ohio State Buckeye desserts. and we are going to take you places emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually that you have not been to in a long time. You've been there. You just have not been there in a long time. And it will absolutely leave you where you're hoping to be left. Now, when this experience concludes, it's down to you and the community, because the one thing I heard at my first AA meeting, which was in January of 2003, a gentleman got up and shared. He said, listen, if you're new here, the only thing you have to change about your life is everything. And it was horrifying. And he wasn't done yet. He goes, and that's the good news. And I sat there at 36 years old, 5 years into recovery, and I thought, how do you change everything about your life? But that's what a journey like this calls for. So, half measures avail people nothing. And we're not going to shove a program down your throat. We're going to initiate you. We are going to, and if not, you're going to leave. You're free to leave at any time. Right. And we have a very, 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 very low walkout rate. Out of 2,200 people, maybe 10 people have walked out in 11 years. And every one of them was an asshole. And it was on us. We got the rostering wrong. We look back at it, you know what, maybe had we asked a tougher question or really examined why that person was coming. In a lot of instances, listen, I just want to get the heat off me. This isn't an order to. I really don't need to be here. I don't understand what you're saying. This thing is taught at a level that a 12-year-old can understand it. It's at that age where we're crying out for this initiation into a spiritual experience. And this is why so many of us struggle and suffer, because we live in a culture that has lost touch with everything: ritual, ceremony, initiation. You know, we seek material solutions for spiritual problems. You know the gamut. I'm telling a baker about bread at this point. Yeah. But I just want that listener out there, because I know you're going to go Googling this shit. You're going to go fucking Google it. And you're going to be like, that guy is as handsome as that voice. God damn.
And then you're talking about Dr. David or you?
Dr. David. And, but don't let the smooth taste fool you. Because we are going to go up that metaphorical ass.
That's right.
And, your seat costs $5,000 that we beg for. And I promise you, I give you my word, that donor is going to get their money's worth. They're going to get that money's worth. But just be done suffering and be open to being open for 72 hours. And watch, not even just for yourself, watch what happens to the people with whom you go through the experience. Watch the shift, because that's all a miracle is a shift in perspective. Watch the shift occur right in front of you.
Yes.
And just breathe and just hang on, and we will get you home. We will get you through the experience. It's going to feel like death at some point. It's going to feel like death. And you're talking to a guy who immerses himself in 37-degree water for 7.5 minutes. I got to do it tonight. It fucking sucks, but it kills the part of us that needs to die and not the body. That's the problem with suicide. The instinct to kill something is right. You're just killing the wrong part of yourself. You're killing the body. We're not killing the toxified superego that is at you constantly. From the moment you wake up, you know what I'm talking about. If you're listening and this interests you, from the minute you open your eyes, there it is right at your bedside going, "Good morning, fuckface. I've been waiting for you. I've been been right beside your bed while you were sleeping doing fucking push-ups. And I'm going up that ass today. All fucking day I will be here. I'm not leaving the area." We give you access to a world, not tools. We give you access to a world where that is no longer eating at you persistently, constantly, what have you. And that's what happens in those 72 hours. And we dare I say, do that better than anyone in the culture. We just don't charge money for it. We don't transact. And because we don't transact, we can tell you the truth.
Yes.
If you go to therapy, if you go to rehab, you are conducting business with folks, and that's wonderful. It's an equal exchange. You give them this, they give you that. But there is an inherent underlying current there that those folks are in business to be in business. We are in the business of begging. We beg strangers for money to give you that experience because an acknowledgement on their part of your service to your community, to your county, to your state, to your country. It is their way of saying, listen, I admire you. Thank you for my freedoms. Thank you for keeping me safe. Thank you for who you are in this community. So it's a gift from them, and the gift to us is now we can tell the truth about what happened.
Yeah. Surrendering to the truth is
There it is.
massive.
Okay.
It's massive. One more, and then before I turn my attention to Eric, the way the first cohort group went and the way that it goes now, what's the evolution been like? What's different?
It went from 120 hours to 72 hours because as you evolve and iterate through a design thinking process, the shot group gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And what is really at stake, what is really at issue, the thing under the thing begins to emerge. And it shows itself to you like what is really the problem. Mm-hmm. The problem is not suicide. The problem is not the addiction. The problem is the unmourned grief. That's what is holding the problem in place. What is keeping the person stuck, and whose voice is missing from the conversation. So in that evolution, in the iterations, I took all the props out and got it down to this salon style encounter that seems to really get to the heart of the matter of what's going on for someone internally. And maybe, just maybe, who I am is not what's going on for me internally.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we get to the heart of the matter of that very quickly. I'm talking from the moment that person enters the container.
Yeah.
It is a ultra high intensive. Now with that, I'm going to caveat this. We don't open any doors we don't have the resources to close. It's emotionally intensive. And it is very spiritually safe because there's a high degree of compassion among the team, and no one who is encountering the person going through the experience, only people who have been through the experience are in the space.
Wow.
There's no clinicians in the space.
Wow.
Yeah, because they've all had their shot at the person.
Right.
We're not the first stop on the train. We're usually the last house on the block.
Right. Exactly. So the major piece of the evolution has been it's more efficient.
It's more efficient, you know, and there's an interesting saying by a psychospiritualist, Jesuit, Indian priest, Anthony DeMello, who said God is always a process of subtraction, never addition. And it was like, you know, there's a great scene in the movie Platoon where Charlie Sheen's getting ready to go out on his first patrol, and Elias, Willem Dafoe, is just stripping everything off of him. You don't need this, you don't need this, fuck this off, take this off, get rid of that. And he's just taking away everything that's not that warrior to go out on that patrol.
Yeah.
And the Saul conversation has rendered down into this. It is absolutely only the most essential things that need to be part of that. And what's very interesting is the typical hold in a mental institution or in a mental facility in this culture is 72 hours.
Yes.
And you know, nobody stays 72 hours. And if you do, you're going on to a different level of care.
Right.
I wanted to demonstrate as a templatized exemplar the excellence that is possible in terms of an impact in 72 hours. And I would put that 72-hour experience up against anything in this culture of where we encounter a human being and where we leave them after 72 hours. And I have a feeling that Eric is going to be able to elaborate a little bit more unbiased on that than I am.
Wow.
Very, very good, bro.
Wow.
Yeah. Eric.
Yep.
Kind of want to start the same place I did with Jake. I'm sitting around thinking, you were somewhere when you decided, when you knew inside, this is something you have to do. And so I'm curious. Save a Warrior, you knew about it, but you decided to participate. What was that moment like?
The hardest part
The whole damn thing
was
bro.
hitting the submit button.
The hardest part was pushing the
submit. I have always been like my whole career. I've always been the junkie. Like I liked the high angle rescue. I liked the boats. I liked being the first on the hose line. I enjoyed the adrenaline.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, it takes a toll.
Yes, it does.
And I went for a long time. I've seen a counselor a few times and had 2020 probably the pinnacle year that made me submit and finally say, yeah, I need some help. I bounced back and forth with, some mental trauma and stuff,
right.
Even as far back as late 20s,
okay, when
it finally started really weighing on me. And 2020, I had lost both of my parents. Lost mom in March and lost dad in October. And typical American family. We had talked about it earlier. Dad was a typical workaholic.
Right.
Didn't have a horrible life when I was growing up, but still had the same issues everybody else grows up with.
Right.
But when I went through that, at the same time, I had 3 or 4 different things that happened at the firehouse. A couple of pretty critical calls that rocked me. And at the same time, my wife and some of my best friends were coming over, and they're like, are you pissed off at us, or what's going on because you're different? And it was like, I think that was at the point when things started really crumbling. It was falling apart. I was kind of losing control of that. And I have 2 pretty close friends in the area that had went through Save Warrior, and they both had told me at different times, like, you would really benefit from that to get your head back straight.
Okay.
And so I was out of the blue. I had one of the counselors called, touched base with me, just out of the blue. Said, hey, something told me to call you and see how you were doing. And I went back home and I thought about it for a little bit, and I pulled the web page back up and looked at the application again. And about 2 days later, we had a accident out there, and I was on the scene for about 3 minutes by myself with 2 minutes with a 8-year-old who got killed in a wreck. And I've been rocked before, but I had never been rocked like that. Like I was helpless.
Yeah.
I was to a point like I didn't know what to do. I had the mom chipping in one ear, and I had the sister in the front seat that was confused, and I'm holding her son in the back seat, scared to pull him back because I'm not sure what he looks like.
Wow.
And that was probably the pinnacle moment. I went home, broke down crying a couple times. My wife wasn't sure why I felt like this. Like I didn't want to go back to work, and that wasn't me. And I finally, that night about, it's probably midnight, I finally I got to do something, because like at that point, I don't know whether shit or go blind. I'm lost. And I hit the submit button, and I think it was probably 3 or 4 days later, Larry called, and the rostering call felt like it was 15 minutes.
Okay.
And when I got done, Janelle was sitting there, and she goes, well, how was it? And I said, it was quick. She goes, you've been on the phone for almost an hour and a half. And I'm like,
wow.
Really? So that was kind of the thing. And then I got a call maybe a week later that said, hey, we're going to accept you into cohort, and here's your date. So that was kind of the step forward.
Yeah.
In that time, I kind of backed away. I was looking for an out to retire.
I want
to go somewhere. I got to do something anywhere but this. But it's like I was still kind of holed up inside myself.
Right.
And that was kind of the springboard to get me there.
So, bro, you had to push yourself to go.
I did.
And how'd you do that? What did you find inside that got you there?
I don't know what the final jump was to put. Something told me, you got to do something. It's kind of like we said before. I never considered myself suicidal. Okay. I was always a savior. I was always the fixer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I was a fixer to a fault.
Yeah.
Like speaking to my wife,
Yeah.
it went beyond like fixing. Like I was going to be right. Like, speaking back to you, I'm going to be right because I'm going to fix this because you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And it just, I think the contentious part of that,
Yes.
and she's a saint, that she would do anything, for me. But I was not present anymore. Like I had lost myself.
Yes.
And
you knew it.
yes, I knew it, but I didn't have the courage to do anything about it.
Okay.
Like I said earlier, all of our kids live within 5 miles of us.
Right.
And I know that it's easier to look back from now, where
Yes.
I'm at now, as to what I was then. But like conversations would go on in the house, I would not be part of the conversation because my mind was always doing something else.
Right.
My mind was always fixing something else, or what the next thing was I had to work on. So I don't know. Something pushed me to hit the button.
Something
And
that
then,
you couldn't.
and then, yeah. And from that point on, life has changed.
Life has changed. And I'm thinking, the week before you went, what was
Nervous as a cat.
Yeah, exactly.
Nervous as a cat. And I think because you don't know what to expect.
Yes.
All you know is the people that have been there
Yes.
are like, it's going to change your life. And not having, it's like Jake said, there's no way to explain the container that you would understand.
Right.
I tell anybody that I talk to, like, it was nothing I expected, but it was exactly what I needed.
Boom.
It was when they walk you up to the door before
Yes.
you cross the threshold and you have that talk in front of you, and then like whether you like it or not, it changes your frame of mind. And I don't think for everyone, but for me, I was at a point where like the conversation was serious enough, like I'm going to be serious about this. Like there is a hope when they speak to you at that door.
A tone.
And there's a fear.
Yeah.
There's a fear, but there's a hope. And everybody wants that. I wanted that. I wanted back what I had. I wanted life back to where everything's enjoyable.
Yeah, don't we all?
Yeah. Well, I have so much. I have so many things to be thankful for in my life.
No, yeah.
So much right here in front of me to be thankful for. I had my parents still. Dad was 91. Mom was 89.
Yeah.
I mean, I had so much to be thankful for, and I wasn't thankful for any of it. Like I was looking for the next nut. I wanted the next big thing. I wanted, if I do this, that'll be the best thing ever. Well, then you get to that point and you do that, and okay, I want the next big thing.
And damn it isn't what I wanted, right? So I got to go.
It isn't what you want. Or it doesn't fill that hole that's in there, and you have no idea what that hole's for or why it's there.
Yeah.
So that was.
So you get there. You drove yourself, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And your wife didn't go with you as a participant. Okay. So you get there and you, like, what's the first thing that happened?
So when you get there, like, I'm notoriously late.
Okay.
They always say, like, if you're an optimist, you plan too much shit in your day, so you're always late. Okay. I'm always late. Like, I do my best.
Most
this is probably the first thing I was early for here today, and that's because I had the wrong time. But when I got down there, it was early, and Warrior Village is, like, it looks like you're pulling into this resort. Serene. It's gated. It's gorgeous. You're in southern Ohio. It's like a pine forest, stone gates. But when I got there, I was early by maybe 15, 20 minutes, and they do not open the gates until it's time to cross. So I went back around the corner and parked, and 2 or 3 other cars started coming. So we finally, like, when the gates finally opened, you pull into a parking lot, and you get there, and it's kind of like that first day at camp where you're not really sure.
Yeah.
Everybody shakes hands and it's cordial, but it's like you're not really sure who these guys are.
Right.
What are you here for? Why am I here? So there's a little bit of an awkwardness there.
Yeah.
But Now the shepherds that were with our cohort was there, and they kind of gave us a lowdown of what was going to happen and where we were going. And that's your first thing. You park your car and grab your suitcase and walk to the lodge to put your stuff away.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And the shepherd, tell a little bit about the shepherd.
So my two shepherds both of them were quite a few cohorts before me. My shepherds were Jake and Nick. So they were quite a few before me, but they're there and they take care of your beck and call. Anything you need, like at the end of the day when we would come back to take a shower and get ready for bed, like there's 9,000 things rolling through your head, and stuff that's you've not only been thinking about to talk about while you're down here, but then stuff that you forgot, things that happened 30, 40, 50 years ago that you've forgotten, that now is drummed back up in your thoughts. So then they're like that big brother, like camp counselor, and you can ask them anything. And the coolest part of the entire experience is it's very clear and it's very known when you walk into the container that it's a safe space, and everyone in that container has been through the program. So you're not ashamed to say anything because they basically up front tell you everything.
Yes.
And that safety allows you to be able to ask questions that you can't ask at work. You can't ask it at home.
Right.
You can't discuss this at home because that's an unshareable that like most people would not understand.
Right.
And they may understand it, but they've never had to deal or work through it either. These people have worked through it already.
Yeah.
And they give you that courage to be able to go the next step.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Tremendously supportive.
The community is like nothing I've ever witnessed in my life.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Now, for both of you, because you've watched so many of these processes happen in front of you, and you went through it. Was there a point in the 72 hours where, man, the impact, the penetration into you was just beyond words? What was that like?
About 72 times in that 72 hours.
72 times.
It's probably the exercises are different. Each exercise has a purpose, but probably when you get your chance to sit in a chair and talk,
yes,
and you have the other shepherds or the Red X leaders that are in there with you, or when Jake comes in, you can't bullshit your way through it because they know it. Like if you're not putting it on the line when you get up there, they understand that and they pull that out of you. But the release and the healing that starts with that, just the fact that you can finally let it out.
Yes.
I mean, that
was your moment.
2 or 3 times a day, each day, know, that happens. And it's not just yours, but watching someone else do that. Because when the biggest reward of this healing is watching everyone in there with you step back into their life and bounce through that. It's the transformation. You can see it in their face and you can see it in their body language.
Wow.
Just,
powerful.
Amazing. Powerful, yes.
And did it make you like, I can see what's going on with them. Is it going on with me?
Yeah. There's, like I said, there's times when someone else would speak and say something and it's like, Christ, I never thought of that. Like, some of the things some of the wounds that you carry.
Yes.
You don't think about it. It's just that's part of your life. But then when that other person goes through it and you let that sink in and you think about it, and like you go down I was in a 10-person cohort, and of all 10 that were in with this, the stories they weren't exact, but everybody's got a story.
Extremely
and a lot of the stories are the same.
Yeah.
So it was, extremely powerful on that part.
Do you know, or did you know it early on, maybe even in the 72 hours, this is a success already?
There was so much going on in 72 hours that, like I said, it was a blur going through it. Like, you have I journaled every night when I get back to the room because I didn't want to forget anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But like, I still go back and I pull my journal back out and look at what I wrote for the day, and it's like, there's so much going on in there that like you have to continually look at it just to remember it. But then there's nuggets that you get throughout the day that I still use every day to this day. Beautiful. And to continue to do that work that they send home with you.
How'd you sleep?
Like a rock. Like,
hadn't slept that well in a long time, had you?
Well, you go back exhausted, and it's
right.
I mean, it's early morning to late night. We wouldn't get back to by the time we get to bed, it'd be 11, 12 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
But you would also, like, you have bunkmates while you're there.
Mm-hmm.
And the two bunkmates that I had, we formed a pretty tight bond in the beginning and started talking. So, like, you would get back and we would actually kind of talk through it with each other when we get there. And, to a point that you have some crying conversations with your guys in your bunk.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You're sitting back there talking, and the next thing you know, you're hugging it out before you go to sleep. Like, we'll get back after tomorrow morning. But it was an experience like nothing I had expected. But my God, I would take that again in a heartbeat. Just amazing.
Were you afraid for the weekend to end?
It I when I pulled out, I called my wife and I said, I'm leaving. I'm 2 hours from home, hour and 45 minutes. I said, I'll be home in a little bit, but I'm going to go. I got a lot of thinking to do. And she was cool with it. She was cool, but it was like, when I got home, I told her that. I'm like, for the first hour and a half of the drive, I was sad. Like, I had a sadness. You walk out of cohort with a euphoria. Like, it's amazing, almost enlightened feeling when you walk out. You ride that wave for a couple weeks. But I had a sadness because it's like there was so much that happened and so much that I had processed in 72 hours that I was sad that I left. Like, I didn't want it to end.
Yeah.
And I knew I wanted to go. I knew I wanted to go home and see everybody and like, you want to go home and shake them. Like, you guys are not going to believe. But
check this shit out.
No one understands it.
Yeah.
Like, the only ones that understand it were the ones that have already
the ones, the one you're going through it with.
Yeah. So, there was a sadness coming back.
The loss of intimacy.
Yeah.
I mean, you have it at home, but it's a different kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a much deeper communal sense.
Yes.
With that sense of intimacy there at Save a Warrior.
Yes.
Wow. So how long ago were you a participant? Were you a cohort?
June 4th, 5th, and 6th of last year.
Last year.
Wow.
Yeah. So just over a year and a month, year and 2 months.
And I get the sense listening to you and watching you that it's live in you. That 72 hours is still ringing inside
resonating,
you.
With the 72 is kind of like a foundation. And it gets your feet on the ground and gets you set. Mm-hmm. But the work after, they send you home with a 500-day plan.
Oh, wow.
And that 500 days, it was kind of, we had talked about it earlier, when I started the first 500 days, like the first 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks, I'm working through this stuff and I'm going through the traits in the laundry list. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, a lot of this I can't get it to apply to me. So I'm filling everything out. And then at about that 7-8 week mark, something like popped in there. And I'm like,
whoa,
dumbass, you're not looking at it the right way. Stop reading it and start thinking as you're reading it. Yeah. And then at that point, I started reaching out to some of the guys in cohort, like, are you having trouble with this, or what are you looking at? And my bunkmates, both of them, called back and we started talking about it. And then, like, at that point, I had like an awakening moment, like, look at it holistically.
Yes.
And then things started making sense. And then once you get that head of steam going, you start rolling and you get out of there. And then the second series is A Course in Miracles. And when you bounce from there to the next, it's like, hey, life has never felt like this, ever. I mean, even when I was a kid, like you look at things differently and you feel things differently. And it's just, it's that euphoric comes back, and it's every day just keeps getting better.
You feel things differently.
Yes.
You experience things differently. So sometimes the things that you experience aren't what we would call good or pleasant or whatever.
Yeah.
They're hard, but it's better to know them and feel them and have them be a part of you rather than try and alienate them from you. They're a part of who you are. And so the Save a Warrior in the 500 Days, which is really a part of Save a Warrior, the way I think of it, together take you to a place where you're long-term ready for anything.
Yes.
Which to me is the definition of a warrior.
Mm-hmm.
A warrior is ready for anything.
Yeah.
And that comes from being in here so deeply and intimately that you're ready for whatever is on the path.
Yeah.
And you have faith in that. Beautiful. Your wife, she notice any differences in you?
Oh, she always, her biggest thing now is she comes back, and when she lays down at night and lays her head on my shoulder, she's like, my Eric's back. And I know it's the dopey part of it.
Yes. That's awesome.
It is amazing what it's done, and she sees a huge difference, and that's the part that I notice is being present.
Yes.
Like the fact that it doesn't take anything now to set something down, and life's still busy. I mean, we still have days where we can't get everything done, and you can't take 5 minutes to go do this, but it's like I can take the time when I need to.
Yes.
So
it's important.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm impressed as hell.
Oh, me too.
I'm thinking,
I'm blown away.
I've several people that I'm coaching with now that might be interested in this. So, like, is there a certain group of people that you're trying to appeal to that you'd like to have apply as cohorts? And then what's that process like? You go to your website, and what do you do?
You know, it's interesting. You talked about faith. You know, I trust that the people. How do I answer this? I know enough about the space of what's available for veterans, what's available for first responders, what's available for the culture, that I'm a big believer. You know, you hear the old metaphor, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Collectively, we wanted to set a standard where quality is our culture.
Yes.
There is a declaration of excellence. It is the National Center of Excellence for Complex Post-Traumatic Stress. You know, DAV, Disabled American Veterans, has been an incredibly generous partner. Their leadership themselves have gone through the experience to get their own direct experience of what it is we're offering, because it is so novel.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to try to put too fine a point on that. Remember, I told you at the beginning, it was through my own mental illness that I was able to synthesize a lot of the domains and concepts that create and cause that 72-hour experience to be what it is. But it is a templatized exemplar for what's possible. And in a very, very cost-effective way. I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
When I started Save a Warrior, and I've done quite a bit of research as an MBA student, as a doctoral candidate, my MBA had an emphasis on disruptive innovation. And there is a godfather of disruptive innovation, Clayton Christensen, who was a professor at the Harvard Business School. He passed a few years ago. And this is a game and an experience that is constituted in language. So what has really evolved in the last 11 years is the language to describe the experience. And, you know, looking at the research and looking what's available, the covenant was, we're going to create something that is not franchisable, but is replicable, that can be looked at. When we built the new facility, it was built with a high degree of intention to have the second row so that clinicians from around the country who send us their people.
Yes.
From around the country, a lot of clinicians send us their people, could sit in the back and watch what it is we do in this accelerated resolution therapy, this narrative exposure therapy, whatever evidence-based practice you want to put this in. I think it has its own unnamed domain because of what it synthesizes. It takes the best of what is effective and what is impactful. And what is impactful in that experience is, listen, you're going to tell us the truth. And you're going to find out it's really fucking ugly. The beingness of human being is nasty business. We are not the top of the food chain because we're nice. And we're going to start to see these things in ourselves and find our own humanity for having had the courage to look, and Campbell said it best, where we thought to encounter a monster or an abomination, we will encounter a God. And we're going to take you on that heroic journey inside, and you're going to see. This conversation has been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and by whatever stroke of luck or bad luck, some thing in the universe handed it to me and said, here you go, asshole, your turn. Don't fuck it up. Too bad. But, you know, there's something about this. I couldn't fuck this up at this point if I wanted to.
Right.
It
has a life of its own.
You heard this gentleman next to me speak from his direct experience. And he's an eloquent, educated man. And he's sitting here saying, and I get it. I understand because I was in the room, but it's like, how do you explain water to a fish? Yeah. You ask a fish, tell me about water, and a fish would be like, well, it's everywhere. But if you pull that fish out of the water, that fish has an entirely different experience now of water, absent water. And I'm not trying to be coy, I'm not trying to be sneaky, but there's a way to deliver an experience like this. I finally figured out what I was sent here to do. I wasn't sent here to be a soldier. I was sent here to come back for soldiers. I wasn't sent here to be a police officer or a firefighter. I was sent here to come back for police and firefighters who struggled similarly. And what the heart of the matter is, it's the shared honesty of mutual vulnerability openly acknowledged. And that is a line from Not God, The History of AA, as written by Ernest Kurtz, a brilliant PhD from Harvard who was obsessed with wanting to understand how transformation is communicated from one human being to another. And that's what happens at Save Warrior. Transformation is communicated from one human being to another, devoid of transaction. Semicolon, however, comma, because what the big print giveth, the little print taketh away. The only way to keep it is you got to pay it forward. You got to give it away. You cannot hold on to it. I have to share this courageously with another human being so that they can get theirs too. This metaphysical law known as others having gotten, and Eric touched on, you know, when you sit there and you see the lights come on for somebody else, yes, there are people that think, am I going to get mine? You know, it's like Dorothy at the end of Oz. I know the Scarecrow got his brain and the Tin Man got his heart, and that fucker over there finally got some courage and his balls dropped. But I know there's nothing in that bag for me, Mr. Wizard. And he's like, Sugar Booger, you've had the red rubies on the whole time. Just click your heels. Or the nice witch of the fucking wherever she's from, parts unknown, says, you've had the power all the time. Just click your heels 3 times. And then she returns home, and the characters that were in her quote unquote dream are now back in the real world. And she's like, how? And you were there, 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 and you touched my bum. What? But you can't. She can't explain. But we, as the story listener, we get it.
Yes.
See, we get it. Yes. Human beings only do 10 things: we eat, we pee, we poop, we fuck, we come, we sleep, we dream, we tell stories, we listen to stories, and we die.
Yes.
That's it. Those are the only 10 things you're ever going to do in the beingness of, as a human being, as a tube. All you are is a tube that starts at your mouth, it ends at your asshole. And you're going to learn the so what of that at the experience if you give yourself permission to hit that submit button. And it's wonderful to have this opportunity with y'all tonight, because I know somebody's listening going,
damn, man,
those motherfuckers are crazy. But I'm going. Wait, it's free. I know every cop out there is going, wait, it's free.
Free? What's the catch?
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great point. Mm-hmm. That's a great point that Mark brings up.
Yeah.
That there is a catch. The catch is there's no catch. Now wrap your heart and brain around that, because this game is about that brain-heart coherence. Mm-hmm. This is about the reversal of thought and a return to love, because it's either fear or love. Mm-hmm. And we're going to give you an opportunity to get complete in a place in your life where you will absolutely know to the core of your being, if there's two buckets in life, am I choosing right now from love or am I choosing from fear? Mm-hmm. You will know that you know that from having this daily practice that Eric touched on, having walked out of here, because it takes 500 days to clarify and integrate that 72-hour experience. You've been living decades down this path that doesn't serve you and work for you. It's going to take about 15 minutes, to walk that back and clean up the shit along the way. Mm-hmm. But this story is as old as time. There's only ever one story that's been told. Separation, initiation, return with treasure, with purpose and the capacity to serve others for fun and for free. Yeah. The end. Yeah. The end. I'd ask you if there's any fucking questions. How could there be? But yes, it is terrifying to sit there and shake like a dog shitting thumbtacks. He's expressing. There's about 5 big moves in that game. And we don't want to take away from anybody's experience, but there's about 5 big moves that build upon, and the aperture begins to open. And we talked about access to a world, but we've got to get this aperture open so that you can move interdimensionally in this non-linear, in this non-linear fashion through non-ordinary states of consciousness. Kurt Vonnegut writes about it. If you know what to look for when you read Vonnegut, here's a guy who was captured in the Battle of the Bulge, survived the firebombing of Dresden, and just had every illusion shattered, and just came home and wrote the most incredible stories about. He's like, listen, we're doing this all wrong. This is not what you think. This thing called life is not what you think. And for me, the voice has spoken to me 3 times. The one was about my dad. She touched him too. Boom, complete with the old man. And the other 2 times were, God damn it, I hate it when that fucking happens. Sorry for my language, ladies and gentlemen. I really have tried to work on the language.
Listeners are used to it.
Yeah.
But there were these 2 or 3 moments in my. The other was when I had my last drink. I was sitting with a neighbor at 36 years old, and it was January 15th, 2003. And he's written about. There's a book published called The 100 Deadliest Men Who Ever Lived, and he was a used pocket watch dealer in Santa Monica, California, who'd been robbed 4 times, shot 6 people, 5 had died. And he was my neighbor. And I watched him sit there and drink himself once again into a stupor. And the voice in my head, he was 61, I was 36. The voice said, that's you in 25 years. I got up with a half-finished Miller High Life, poured it out into his small sink in our efficiency apartments in Santa Monica, where I could barely make the rent. It was one of the darker periods of my life. I sat that bottle down on his cutting board, and that was the last time I picked up a drink. The next day I called a sponsor and I said, I think I'm done drinking. He goes, great. I need you to stand up in front of 200 men next Wednesday night at Roxbury Men's Stag in Beverly Hills, California, and identify as a newcomer. And I stood up in front of those men when they called for newcomers. Every cell in my body was shaking. And I said, my name's Jake and I'm an alcoholic. And I was only beginning. That was only part of it. That was only part of it. I was still on the journey to find the right room. And what happened, and where it synthesizes at Saul, is people come to this understanding in about the 68th hour. It takes us 68 hours for the initiation to turn to an intervention. Wow. And that's when you're just like when you think you've crested the last wave and you're getting out to sea, we're like, oh no, Pimpy. No, player. No. I got one more thing for you. And it's just like, make the bad man go away. Make the bad man go away. But it takes that long to soften you up to hear what is necessary, because we want you to get all of it. We want you for everything you've rendered, for all you've sought to be. We want you to have this rich, full, purpose-filled life. But we've got to get over that last breaker. Yeah. And then we unpack that. We really delve into what the 500-day plan is and what's available. And again, being a design thinking model, we give you a choice. It's A, it's B, it's a derivative of both, it's C. But the person who is walking out of the experience has to know that they are driving the 500-day experience.
Yes.
We're the car, all the stickers are on it, but they've got to drive the car.
Yes.
It'll be fueled, it'll have support. You don't have to do any of it alone. We don't suggest you do any of it alone, but that's where, things really begin to synthesize. And I love to sit beside a gentleman like Eric and hear, when he says, I got my Eric back. I sit here internally and I go, thank God, because the last fucking 11 years of my life dealing with some of these motherfuckers, man.
Oh, yeah.
Some of and listen, I will share this with you. The dude who was third in the door to kill bin Laden, and we have his boots, sat in that seat. And he said, I have had every opportunity available for a tip of the spear, power projection platform, first-class operator known as a DevGru member has at their disposal. They could not move the needle on me because they couldn't get to the thing under the thing. Those are the kind of warriors that come to Saul. Yeah. They've been everywhere. We've had more Navy SEALs you can shake a stick at, Green Berets, pararescuemen, Delta operators, Marine Raiders, LAPD SWAT, NYFD, arson. They've all sat in that seat, every one of them. Now the key is about 65 to 70% will do something with the experience. So about 7 out of 10 people will actually do something with the experience, and they stay connected to the community. Now consider that after 11 years, 70% of the people stay connected. And if I'm listening, I'd be wondering, like, what was it about that experience that caused them to want to just keep a finger connected to that community? That's the question. But listen, that happens every day in AA. That's right. That happens every day in Al-Anon. That happens every day in NA. But we come from backgrounds where we have contempt prior to investigation. We will not, and it was by a stroke of luck in the universe that I was able to get into a room that ended in anonymous. We'll go into burning buildings. We'll respond to bank robberies. We will get in rolling firefights. We will do 8, 9, 10 combat deployments, but we will not walk into a room with those weird people.
Right.
Because we will never recognize our Eskimos when they're in front of us, because they look nothing like what it looks like in the movies or what we make up in our mind about the stories we've been told. They are broken fucking people on their way to being unbroken, and they're looking for us, and they want nothing for us, so we're immediately suspicious of them. Why? Because we go looking at relationships to get something rather than contribute. And that is the thing under the thing in this culture. It's the what's in it for me. If I don't get mine first, and it's this absence, not this lack of, this absence of faith in warriors.
Yes.
Whereas warriors used to be led by their faith.
Yes.
And all faith is the belief in something for which I have no readily available evidence. And people are like, well, of course. So why the fuck should I trust you? I got it. I understand. But listen, how's your way working?
Yeah.
How's that going? What marriage are you on? How many promises have you broken to yourself about, I'm not going to drink tonight. I'm not going to jerk off to porn tonight until I have penis dry heaves and talcum powders coming out the head of my dick. What? What did he just say? What? You heard me. I'm not going to do that again. And it's broken. Why? Because people come to Saul because they're addicts.
Yeah.
They're addicts. I have yet to meet a person to come through that door that is either not chemically, process addicted, or both. And they're very, very clear. People are very clear when they leave, because we tell them our stories. Every one of us who are part of the experience, it's a 3-day fucking production. It's a damn production company, for lack of a better term. We just put on a hell of a show. And people were like, I can't believe they just shared that with me. I have that going on, but I'm not going to tell anyone that. Oh yeah, here you will. I promise you. Oh, I assure you, no tears, no tacos. You're gonna share that with us. And at some point you feel compelled to, because you're like, you know what, I've got to unload this, and this is as safe a place as any. You get to the ceremony for the dead, where people are burning it off ritualistically that one last time. It's a madhouse. It's incredible, but it's a fucking madhouse, because people that are listening, you're carrying transgenerational trauma. You're not fucked up because of what you saw on the street. That's horrible. But men have been doing crazy shit. Women have been doing crazy shit from time immemorial, and that's a different brain that you're sourcing that from. This is stuff that your family has been handing off to generation after generation after generation after generation, and they cover this big pile of shit shame, and you take it out of love and you cover it up and deny it because you've got to make your way in the world, and you get stuck in this vicious circle. Well, we give you another option and another way to consider that maybe, just maybe, I don't have to live out. People that are out there now going, I promised myself I would grow up and be nothing like my parents. And not only am I just like my parents, parts of me are worse.
Yes. Yes. And then you get shamed.
But I've got a nicer car.
Yeah.
And I've got a better house.
Yeah.
And I got better grass. My fucking grass. I could win awards from Scott's. Like, I have representatives from Scott's calling me going, can we use your lawn in the next commercial for the Masters or the Super Bowl, because your shit is fucking green. And I wonder, how did I get here? How did this happen? That answer to that most powerful question that one arrives at themselves becomes crystal clear in that 72 hours. Beautiful. In a really compassionate way, though. It's done very beautifully and with a lot of compassion. Like, no one is shamed, no one is humiliated. Will we move you up against it? Yeah, we are absolutely going to put you in that space to realize that you do have the courage to move through some very uncomfortable what happens with respect to the experiences that occurred in your life, particularly very, very early in your life.
Right. We have found the power of telling an I story.
Yes. No yous, no we's.
I.
Yeah, I.
And then it pulls it right out.
Yes.
When you hear an I story, you want to tell an I story. It's automatic.
Wonderful.
And it works beautifully to hear. Therefore, I need to. I'm compelled to. And I'm safe here to do that.
And it's the conversation I have been waiting to have my entire life. I just didn't think it would happen beside a soybean field in southern Ohio.
Yeah.
It was the top of Mount Everest. It was between two silicone-infused titties. What? You heard me. I know what you did last summer. It's got to be Jamaica. And she's got a flat head and fold down teeth and Pacmar grip ears and doesn't speak English. I know where you've looked.
Congratulations.
You're welcome.
I'm jacked. I think we've done a great job of pulling really wonderful stuff out of both of you guys. You are wonderful guests. We would love to have you back.
My regards to the censors. to the editors.
We're rated explicit, so you can say whatever you want to do.
Listen, I told your audience at the beginning that there are parts of me that are not fucking right. Listen, I'm letting you know, if you saw the guy who came back for me, you'd be like, he's actually G-rated.
This is our producer right here.
Yeah. That's Hedgehog Donnie there.
When I saw Ron, I knew I was I don't want to say safe space. I knew I was somewhere.
That's our producer's face, actually.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, that's Donnie's face on Ron Jeremy's body. So. Hedgehog Donnie.
Oh, my God. Not the hedgehog. Oh, my God.
Donnie's like, would you please take that down in the studio? And I said, no.
Never.
No, I'm going to actually frame it. Wow, I'm in awe.
Yes.
I can say this is probably the first episode where I wasn't blabbering on for hours. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you both for sharing the story. I am just, what'd you say earlier? Underwhelmed, overwhelmed, or whatever.
Understood.
I don't mean to quote Mike Tyson. You're incredulous.
Now I'm just so blown away. I'm in awe. I'm speechless. It's just like, and I was watching myself on the video. I'm like, my jaw is agape, and I'm just taking it all in. I am so overly impressed. And thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for the help and the healing, and thank you, Eric, for having the courage to go through that process.
Yeah,
I can see in your face.
Yes.
You're just so chill now. Because, I saw you when you were still on the job.
I was wound tight for
Well, yeah, we all were. We all were a bunch of wound up assholes. I was too. My last 2 years of my job was pure fucking hell. And I'm just humbled. I'm thankful that you guys come in here and spend some time with us. Thank you so much for driving up.
Yes.
I wish I had more to give you than pizza.
No, that was delicious pizza from Piqua.
It's an absolute pleasure to meet you both.
Thank you.
Well,
and
see you again, Eric, but to meet you,
I'd like
Jake.
to share this. There will be a day in the not too distant future where the technology will be as such that we can deliver this experience to someone in the privacy of their privacy, and we're not too far away from that. But I will share with people, you can, it all adds up. Everything you do in furtherance of your own healing, it all adds up. The prayer, the meditation, the affirming, making your bed, the cold showers, the cold plunges, the sneaking into a meeting and not saying anything that ends in anonymous, the meeting that has your name on it. It all adds up. Listening to things that fill you up spiritually, training physically, getting out in nature, all of these things add up, and you can generate your own spiritual experience of the educational variety, and what you seek does seek you. And listen, I'm not shaming anyone that's struggling with any kind of chemical or process addiction. When I'm talking about process addiction, I'm talking about the codependency, the adult child stuff, the Al-Anon issues, the being concerned with other people's drinking and drugging, the gaming, the porn, the food. These are what are known as process addictions, which is really an addiction to drama. The chemical stuff is generated by resentments, which means to refeel. And this is you if you're going, I'm always fucking moody. And I wonder why. And it's those internal addictions that we can really help you get support on, and that you can find support in now. But let your heart guide you. If you see a commercial, if you see something, if a word pops for you where you're interested in the inquiry, go into that room that ends in anonymous, go into that Al-Anon room, go to that ACOA meeting, go to that Sex Addicts Anonymous, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, go to that Codependence Anonymous meeting, and go 5 or 6 times. You don't have to say anything. No one's going to bother you. They're going to make you feel welcome. The coffee's horrible, but it tastes delicious, if that makes any sense. But that was what it was for me in the late 90s, and not a lot of people in the career fields that listen to programs like this will grant themselves the courage and permission to do that. It is terrifying only the first time, but once you get in there and breathe a sigh of relief, and you stop judging the people in the room and judging their shares, and take the cotton out of your ears and stick it in your fucking mouth and just listen, you'll realize, oh my God, these people are safe. You doesn't have to be Saved Warrior. That's just one option, and we're going to direct you there ultimately in some form anyway at some point, if you're who typically comes to Saul. But trust in your inquiry to recovery, integration, healing, and wholeness. Everything you need to heal is already inside of you. I promise.
Aces. Perfectly said.
Thank you for letting me share that.
Oh, thank you for saying it. I'm grateful to be here.
Yes,
to be able to be a witness.
And if you have the benefit of a wonderful therapist like the doctor over here, please tell them the truth. Tell them what you don't want to tell them, because they have gone to school and have had their own experiences to help you work through these things, particularly the shame. You don't have to be ashamed to ask for. You don't have to be so ashamed. Shame is the fear of being disconnected. Shame is the interruption of interest and enjoyment. Shame is the hat trick of contempt, condemnation, and confusion that all of us experienced as children, and live in a culture that is driven by shame, and it's not real. It's a story that we're stuck on, and people like the doctor here, who's been so gracious to guide us through this conversation today, he is an expert at helping you disappear and dissolve that shame. And please find those people in your world, because you deserve to live a rich, full life.
Amen to that. And I can't stress that enough. If you're going to get into therapy, don't waste everybody's time. I mean, Eric, you'd mentioned you'd went to therapy a couple of times.
Yes.
I mean, were you involved when you went to it, or was it a checkbox? I'm going to go to therapy and make myself feel better.
I think
First time out.
the first time out,
Yeah.
I went because it was a checkbox.
Yeah.
And the problem with the
Me
first
too.
one was I didn't connect with my counselor.
Yeah.
Like my first counselor, I might as well have went to Waffle House. I mean, it did no good.
Exactly.
But after 3 sessions, I had given up, and then I, out of the blue, had met a counselor in the same office area
Mm-hmm.
and had conversation in the hallway. And at that point, I asked, "Hey, could I switch to you?"
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So when I switched to her and I actually connected, at that point was when counseling actually helped.
That's when the work started.
Yes,
nothing.
It helped me. It didn't dig deep enough because I wasn't honest enough.
There you go, and that's where I was going.
I
with that.
didn't have the courage at that point in time. I was still like, you still have that macho feeling. Like nothing, shit rolls off my back. I'm not.
Yeah.
I have no problems like that. I just need some help to get through a rough spot in my life.
Yeah. I'm filling potholes right here.
Exactly. And yeah, it wasn't until I held on to the reins too long.
Yeah.
Then the horses got away and the walls came crashing down. And at that point is when you don't have a choice but to try to find something.
Correct.
And I was done. Like he said, I was done suffering.
Yeah.
Up until then, I was okay with the suffering a little bit because I thought I still had a handle on it.
Some people are happy being miserable.
Yes.
Yes. That's what we've kind of.
And misery loves miserable company.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely, Jake. Thank you for the realness.
You're welcome.
I mean, you've got a great vibe about you. I love your energy. As soon as you walked in here, I'm like, I like this guy. I haven't even met you yet. So just your energy coming into the room was so powerful to me. And I'm like, this is a cool dude. Yeah. I really love
it takes one to know
being
one.
in your
you.
presence.
Thanks for having me on.
It's super
Thank you.
great.
It's a gift.
The person I haven't heard a lot from is Mr. Hat. Are you all right over there? I could see the gears rolling through your head.
That was. I got to be honest. I teared up a few times just sitting here. Struck some chords, which is. I got another. Like Eric said, what was that? 15 minutes we'd just been talking.
It feels like 5
It
minutes.
really feels like
it's been an hour and 31 minutes. I'm like, holy shit! I looked at the timer.
And
I'm like,
after
no
72
way.
hours, I'm like, do we have to go now? Because there's a lot of things that pulled up, and yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I was just making
Yeah.
sure you're okay.
No, I'm great.
Do my buddy check.
That was
Mr. Hat had to
as
talk me
Jake
off
would
a
say,
ledge last night.
that was fucking awesome.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
fucking. But
Yeah.
there's nothing I could say that would make anything that I just heard any better. I don't want to ruin it.
No,
It's just,
fantastic.
if you're a first responder in the state of Ohio, we have something for you, and the state supports it. OAPFF supports it. We're very, very blessed to be a group of about a dozen beggars that go
I
out
love that term.
and I finally figured out what I am. And my ex-wife, who was very, very successful and earned well into the 7 figures, said, "Please don't tell people you're a beggar." And I promise. Jake, what do? I'm a beggar. I'm a fucking beggar. They taught me how to do it in Little League. Pass the hat, get the Cokes, get the
Go
hot
door to
dogs.
door with it.
But everything I needed in life, I was trained for at Little League, and
Yeah.
we're very blessed that the state does support us. But there's some folks in this culture, you have more influence than you know, and please come down to Warrior Village in Hillsborough, and please come have a conversation with us, and please talk to some of the folks who are readily available in the area to share their experience, strength, and hope about what's possible, and drive the resources that are already being spent into things that are effective and generate impacts that can ultimately cause incredible outcomes. Stop throwing money after things that don't work.
Yes.
Demand more for your healing dollars, and it will happen. You deserve to get the maximum benefit from these resources that are available to you. There's a reason why. There's a police chief in Miami, Florida, tried to kill himself yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And they encountered the guy at a conference for chiefs, and he's having a fight with his wife in the hotel lobby of the JW, and then they let him go, and he cranks around off in the car next to her. Luckily, he's going to survive, but people in our community are like, we've already reached out. Some folks we know beyond the SAW experience have reached out, but it's like, ask for help.
Yeah.
Yes. Live.
I mean, what's it matter if what's it matter if you lose your career? People do not understand the risks. I know you love your children. You're listening out there. You have as soon as you commit suicide, you exponentially ratchet up the possibility of them ending their life. Similarly, it's like there's a 60-70% chance that's how they're going to pass, is from a completed suicide. There's so much help today, and so much has been destigmatized because men like those who have come together today to create shows like this have said, we're not going to let people we care about, who we've served alongside, just take themselves out and sit back and go, well, nothing could have been done. This is the most preventable death in America today.
Absolutely.
Is a completed suicide.
Yes.
And we can help that person get through that experience and ask themselves, what was I thinking? Well, you weren't thinking. It was thinking. You're having the thoughts. It's thinking. I'm back in the program. Please forgive me. I'll back out of that. But we will show you something. Give us 72 hours. Give us the opportunity to show you that your suffering is not interminable.
Right.
Well, the thing that you said early on, you're trying to kill the thing. How'd you phrase it? Kill the thing that's killing you, but you're killing the wrong thing.
The right church, wrong pew.
Yeah,
I mean,
there you go.
You're killing the body. It's a conversation that you were powerless over until you experience your own internal initiation into another way of being that allows you to catching yourself and go, that's not me. That's it. And I'm having the thoughts it's having. I'm not having thoughts, it's having thoughts, and I'm having the thoughts it's having. I don't have thoughts have me. And we drill that down to you have these ultimate aha moments going, holy shit, I didn't know that.
Right.
Because from the moment you open your eyes, it's on you. And it's such a part of you, if you're having these challenges, that it's like you don't even see that you don't see it. And we will help you. We will support you and get you through that. We can only go on so long on the show. I respect the left and the right limit of that, but please, there's a lot of great information on our website. There's additional resources available, but whatever you do, take that first step, whatever that healing journey looks like for you in life, because it is absolutely essential for a warrior to go on their own heroic journey at some point. It's the Fram oil filter commercial. You can pay now or you can pay later. You're going to fucking pay.
Yeah.
It's a lot cheaper to begin the conversation of your healing journey that much sooner. You don't have to lose the career. You don't have to lose the spouse. You don't have to lose your home. You don't have to lose any more self-respect. You don't have to continue drinking and drugging and looking at things on the internet you rather would not be looking at. And some of you know what I'm talking about. You don't need Chris Hansen meeting you in the kitchen. By that point, brother, all I can do is work with the probation department.
Right.
Which we have. We've had every flavor, but it doesn't have to, the wheels don't have to be completely off. And you leaders of organizations out there, you chiefs and sheriffs, get your fucking head out of your ass, man, and get your ass down to Warrior Village and see what's available for your people at no cost to your agency. The state will pay for this if you lean on your state representatives, but god damn it, get your ass down to Warrior. You'll fucking go to Florida and go to the JW.
They'll go to IACP.
Yeah, you'll clink the champagne glasses, and you'll have one of your contemporaries try to fucking kill himself right there in the hotel lobby. But God forbid you should come and really look at what it is that your people are desperately crying out for. I get that you're hired by the city manager and you know who buttered your bread, but have some fucking integrity.
Amen to that.
Have some. If you're going to take the job on, know that you get everything that comes with the job, and part of it is to transform the leadership of the agency you're taking over, because if you talk to your people, they don't feel safe to come tell you the truth.
Correct.
Now, that should keep you up at night.
It should. Yeah, what was that Colin Powell said? When your people stop bringing your problems, you've lost them.
You got your National Academy placard hanging on the wall. I've been to Quantico. I get it. I know all the frills and all the bells and all the bullshit and all the ways you wear out your shoulder, patting yourself on the fucking back, telling yourself how bitching you are. And meanwhile, your people are devastated. They're traumatized and they have unresolved shit, and you can actually make a difference in their life. All right, I'm off that soapbox. Thank you.
No, I was going to jump up here with you.
Fucking Chiefs.
Like golf applause. Yes, like golf applause. So, website? Go give
SaveAwarrior.org. saveawarrior.org. Read to your heart's content. Go out to YouTube. A lot of great videos. We've been very, very blessed. Millions of dollars in production money have been donated from various entities to capture what it is that we do. There's 3 documentaries. CNN's The War Comes Home. You can access that from our website on the media page. Thank You for Your Service, a documentary where Saul is all of Act 3. If you want to see a beautiful kind of artistic interpretation of the Save a Warrior experience, watch the film The Last Full Measure. Eagle Rare did a beautiful 9-minute and 11-second video on Saul at the beginning of 2018. They embedded with a cohort 0051, which was about 165 cohorts ago. A lot has shifted since then, but you can really see a contemporary version of what's going on inside that container. God bless the folks that own Eagle Rare. They were very, very good to us in those productions. And again, a lot of interviews and a bunch of podcasts are out there as well. And if you ever want to come to Warrior Village, all you got to do is drive to Hillsboro, Ohio. Say, hey, where's the crazy place with the green lights at night that look like Oz? Because it's lit up like Oz. All you got to do is look up in the sky and follow the yellow brick road to the Emerald City, and we'll sit down, have a cup of coffee with you, and answer any questions you may have. We're
awesome.
Available anytime the sun's up till the sun's down, and then some.
Beautiful.
Any other social media?
Everything, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. We're on all those channels.
Perfect. Go check them all out.
Yeah, please,
gentlemen. I thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us here. Thank you.
I am humbled and I'm in awe.
I
I'm
hope
a huge fan.
we can come back here at some point in the future and say,
anytime.
hey, we had people who were
We
listening.
want to come to you.
Thank you. Please do.
We want to come down to the village.
We want you to see an opener.
Yes.
The first 3 hours. It'll be profoundly moving.
Awesome.
We in the
yes.
In the,
How's that?
In the pre-COVID era, we
Yeah.
used to have an audience up to 100 people of concerned citizens. Clinicians would sit and
David, let's schedule.
watch the opener, and they would just be
Mr. Hat.
touched, moved, and inspired by what they saw in those first 3 hours.
Yeah, let's do this.
Beautiful.
Let's do this.
Good talk.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Good
thank you
talk.
very much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, Doctor.
So, do you want to do the honors?
Cue the music, Donnie.
May your days and nights find you strong and safe. May you take your place as your family's face. As you do the shit that we won't do. As you embrace the risk you must go through. May you grow in strength and heal and find your heart, your soul, and your mind. You look at your life and grin. You have a home, the shield within.